Hi, this is Denise Matthew, and welcome to episode 27 of the Mandala of Life, 365 Days to Self-Discovery. Today we're moving away from individual energy into collective logical energy. We're moving away from the voice of individuality, where it's all about expressing yourself when you're in the mood and in some way trying to make an impact on the collective. Now we're moving into the gate 15, which is about the patterns of life. It's the very thing we call the flow of life. It's also called the love of humanity, where the extremes in life are all about bringing us back into balance. This is the rhythm that we all move to, but only when we surrender to the flow. Last week we talked about the gate 12 and how it's a throat gate that is one of the only social gates of the individual circuit. Now we're moving into collective energy, but it's collective energy that has a pattern found within it, but also it acts differently than most other logical collective energy. It's also part of the identity center, which talks to the idea that it's truly about who we feel we are inside. But before we get into new content, let's go over what we talked about in our last episode. In our last episode, we talked about the gate 12 and how there's a potential for it to have a deep impact on the collective energy, to somehow mutate the collective energy, to inject your own form of mutation into the collective, to actually change the pattern. And that it's one half of a manifesting channel, which means that there was a lot of power contained within this energy to manifest things from the mind into the real world. There's passion, creativity, and expression of the individuality that could be on or off. And most importantly, it's about honoring where you are and whether you're in the mood to socialize or to be alone. There can be aloneness within this energy because only during the alone times can you find the clarity for exactly what you want to deliver to the collective, for the exact words you want to say. Because only by having the clarity and articulation can you make an impact on the collective that can lead to change. And if you want to find out more about the Gate 12, please check out episode 26 of the Mandala of Life. With that said, let's get into new content, the Gate 15. And don't forget to check out the other episodes of the Mandala of Life. We're moving away from the throat center, which is also called a manifestation center, and now we're moving to the identity center. This is where we find love in all its forms. The love of the self, the love of humanity, the love of the flesh, as well as the love of the spirit. Today we're talking about the love of humanity, the gate 15, which is half of the channel 515, which is also called the channel of rhythm. This channel brings together two polar opposite energies that when found together within the channel act completely different. The gate 5 is about fixed patterns in life, and the gate 15 is all about extremes. Because the 515 energy comes from the sacral to the identity center, it's also called a generated energy, which means that it is powered by the sacral motor. It is also one of the three channels that come from the sacral center to the identity center, also called tantric energy, which can talk to the idea of transmuting the energy from one form into another. Ra Uru used to call these three channels the power column. As I said before, when this energy is a full channel, or we might say that the quantum has been activated because it has become a full channel, it acts completely different than when you carry a hanging gate. Where the gate 5 is fixed patterns and routines, the gate 15's extremes and routines, and also where there's no pattern at all. But when we have a full channel, this is what we might consider one of the most magnetic energies that we have in the body graph. People are attracted to this energy because there's a big aura when you carry the whole channel. And there is a big aura even when you carry the 5 or the 15, but it's even more pronounced with the whole channel. This is energy that you give off in your aura that says that you have a specific flow. And when people are within your aura, they naturally go with your particular flow. It's not something that is conscious or anybody's trying to do. They just naturally follow along with your rhythm. So people who have this full channel can have a tremendous amount of power. But today we're talking about the gate 15. And since it acts so differently than the full channel, let's get into what it means to have a hanging gate 15. One more thing to keep in mind is that we're always being influenced by electromagnetics, which means that planetary transits that activate a gate that will give us a full channel will definitely activate the quantum of one of our hanging gates so that we have a different expression of the energy. And usually it's going to be transient because the planets move very quickly. And sometimes with the bigger planets, it will be a little bit longer. We also have electromagnetics between relationships. So in other words, people that we are naturally attracted to are usually people that will complete our gates. So even if you have a hanging gate 5 or a hanging gate 15, you too may feel the energy or this magnetic pull that you have on people when it's fully activated by electromagnetic that you're experiencing. The gate 15 is called the gate of extremes, but it's also called the gate of modesty, which doesn't really seem to make sense because extremes and modesty don't feel like they're the same kind of energy at all. But that's not exactly true, because when we talk about the extremes of this energy, we are talking about this need to not have a fixed pattern, to go with the flow that feels right for you, to sometimes eat a lot and sometimes not eat at all, sometimes sleep a lot and sometimes not sleep at all, exercise all the time and then not exercise at all. So there's always a difference in how you are expressing your energy, but it's also related to how you feel and basically your flow within the energy. But on a different level, we can look at the extremes of the gate 15 as the extremes that are needed to bring balance back into a situation. And that is why we call it modesty. In this instance, modesty means that you use the extremes in some cases, but other cases you won't. So you could say that it's basically on a case-by-case situation on whether or not you will use your extremes to bring balance to a situation. And usually it's based on how you feel and if it feels like it's the right thing to do. And when we talk about extremes and even just the word extremes, immediately it feels like a negative thing or a negative connotation is attached to that type of word or the energy. But what we have to see is that the extremes that we're talking about are necessary for life in general. And based on human design, all life forms contain the gate 15 within their body graphs. So what that means, it is an energy that connects all life energies or all life forms. It's an energy that has a pattern within it, and the pattern is to have a fixed pattern, but also to have extremes in the pattern when it's required. And that's what we're talking about. When are the extremes in life required? When do we have to be in a room full of people who are all talking over each other? When do we have to yell at the top of our lungs and say, hey, everybody, listen to me? Now, we would look at somebody who was doing that and say, oh, they brought the energy into balance because it was out of control. So we can look at the extremes as being necessary to somehow bring into balance the energy that is out of control, or you could even say in chaos. So from a personal perspective, if you have the hanging gate 15, we always know that usually we are going to be conditioned by the energy that we don't have. In other words, we sort of want to gravitate towards the energy that we don't have access to, or the openness that we don't have the actual definition in. So in this case, if you have a hanging gate 15, you might want to have some level of a routine in your life. In fact, you might be always looking at the fact that you don't have a routine and question what's wrong. Why can't you get a routine in your life? Why can't you sort of stick with something and continue on doing it over and again? Which is the pattern of the gate 5. But within the gate 15 is the energy of having the extremes to be able to do what you want to do, to follow the flow that feels right for you. When you're trying to conform to an energetic that isn't actually you, then a lot of times there can be frustration that there's something wrong, that you just can't get it together to actually get some sort of a pattern and kind of stick with the pattern. The key with this energy is to understand that this is part of who you are. It is about you going with the flow that works best for you. When a routine is something that you want to incorporate in your life, and maybe you need to incorporate it into your life for some reason, then it's about a routine that is something that is going to have some looseness to it. In other words, you're holding it loosely and allowing it to change if necessary. So if you want to bring in an exercise program into your life and you want to always exercise at 9 a.m. in the morning, and for some reason it works out the first couple of times, but then it doesn't work out after that and you can't exercise exactly when you want to do. And so a lot of times people will just say, I can't keep a routine, I'm just going to quit. Instead of doing that, if you can look at it as saying that I want to exercise 3 times a week, and allowing yourself to exercise whenever it feels like it's the right time, or whenever you feel that you have the time and energy to do it. So you can exercise your 3 times a week or 4 times a week or whatever your goal is, and to understand that it is within the routine that you fix for yourself. It doesn't have to be at the same time, at the same day, every week. It can be flexible to your needs. And when you can see that your pattern can be flexible to your needs, and that's when you're in your own flow. Because ultimately, when you have the 5 or the 15, the flow of your life is important. And it feels like if you're not in your particular flow, then it's almost like you're not aligned with your destiny, or you're not aligned with your life. But when you are in the flow of your life, then you feel as if things are going well. And it's almost like life gets easier because it's starting to progress in the way it's meant to, because you're actually in the flow. So if we can imagine a river, and that we're within the river, we're on a boat and we're flowing down the river, and every once in a while we'll hit a bank, but then we'll push ourselves off and go to the center and start to flow down the river a little bit more. And so we're hitting the banks every once in a while, but we're pushing ourselves back into the flow. So this is where we can continue to try and push ourselves back into the flow, and eventually we're going to get where we want to go. Remember, that's what we're all trying to do. We're trying to get to where we need to go in this life, to be on the trajectory that will take us to our destiny. The flow of our life take us to our true north, to exactly where we're meant to be. And it's going to be different for every single person in the world. We all have our own flow. But when you have the gate 15, or even the full channel, or just the hanging gate 5, the actual concept of being in the flow becomes more of a theme, because it is defined and it is more recognizable in your life. As I said before, the word extreme is not something we champion as a collective, that's for sure. We're all looking at the time, the patterns, and especially with logical collective energy, which this is actually logical collective energy. So when we have the gate 15, it is completely going outside of the norm, you could say, of collective energy. And what it starts to act like when you have the gate 15 hanging is that you begin to act like an individual energy, because this is where you're aligning with what works for you. And if the extremes work for you, then that's where you need to go, whatever those extremes are. Now, extremes are something that you do and it works for you and it helps you in your pattern, and it's the pattern that you follow. And if you understand that is part of who you are, and the expression of your extremes is part of your energy, then accepting that part of you is going to make life easier. What happens sometimes, because of society and because of the pressure to have things a certain way, to conform, to always have a routine and a regulation and those types of things, and you have this type of sort of bigger energy where you're changing things and things are moving in different ways, and you never really know what it's going to feel like or where it's going to go, because you want to change based on how you feel in the day. The thing is that sometimes we will sort of try and hide, or trying to manipulate the way we act in the world to come off as somebody who has a pattern and who is like everybody else. But as soon as you do that, you are sort of pushing down this part of who you are. And as soon as you're pushing down this part of who you are, you're not allowing yourself to be your own self, to be your unique self, to be able to walk in the path of your destiny as opposed to the destiny of everybody else. As soon as we're trying to walk the path of somebody else's life, then that's when we're always going to trip and fall, and it won't work for us, because our lives are our destiny. And especially in this case, to mute yourself or to try and conform can usually make it feel like you don't have any space to actually move. And when you're doing that, you actually are pulling yourself out of your natural flow. And that's when life can be potentially more difficult, because you are not aligning with who you are and the truth of where you're meant to be in life. In fact, you're trying to align with other people. And so it can also express itself in the way that to always be extreme in your nature, to just kind of stick it to everybody and say, this is who I am, accept me who I am, and maybe be more extreme than you would be if you were just naturally following the flow of who you are. As soon as you're following the flow of who you are and allowing yourself to be exactly where you are in the moment, then that's when things are natural. And your natural is always going to be different from someone else's natural. And if you can remember that that's part of the way you're set up, and truly the way that everybody is set up. We all have things that make us unique that we know about ourselves, but as soon as we are trying to conform or trying to stick ourselves in the box of the collective, then that is exactly when things don't go well. So this is about expressing your extremes the way they need to be expressed, to understand that that is part of who you are. And we have to remember that this is a love gate. This is the love of humanity. And as soon as you are muting yourself or not acting within your own flow and within your own pattern, then that's when the love that is part of this energy doesn't go anywhere either. It's all interconnected. The love comes from this idea that you are loving who you are and how you express yourself. As soon as you're trying to hide or you're trying to outmaneuver the way you're set up, that's a time when you're not actually feeling the love, where you're not seeing yourself as a beautiful individual, where you're not actually appreciating exactly who you are and loving who you are. Because the thing about the gate 15 is the opposition is the gate 10. And because of that, they have a lot of interconnectedness within their energy. The gate 10 is the love of the self. The gate 15 is the love of humanity. And what that says is to love humanity, we must love ourselves. Another part of this energy is this idea that there is a love of humanity and the wholeness of humanity. But sometimes it's not about individual people that you're actually expressing your love for, but you're expressing your love for the whole oneness of everything. So if we go back to the idea that all life forms have the gate 15 in their body graph, that means that we're all connected to all life forms in the world, you could say, in the Maya. So that's why many people who have this energy will have a connection to Mother Earth or environmentalism or anything related to trying to preserve this place that we live on. This can be activism of any kind. Can be about seeing the beauty of all beings. This is also the gate of the aura. That's what Ra Uru called it, the gate of the aura. So when you are living out your truth and following the pattern of your life, then you're naturally starting to express the love of humanity within your aura. In other words, when people come around you or you're within a group or something like that, you are raising the vibration. And the other opposite is true. When you are not feeling as though you are part of the world around you, or you're not feeling like you can actually express yourself the way you want to be in the flow that works for you, then you are expressing yourself in a way that your aura is bringing down the energy. So that's why it's so important to be true to who you are, to accept yourself for exactly who you are, and to live your truth. Because when you are living your truth, the beauty of who you are is being expressed to everybody that you encounter in every day. And that's the same for all of the love gates. They all have the potential to shift the energy to bring more love into the world. And when you can see it from that perspective, it might make it easier for you to start to live exactly who you are, to be the person that you have always wanted to be, maybe deep inside, but have not felt that you could be. Even though we don't always agree with the extremes of life, sometimes extreme measures are the only way that we can actually bring things back into balance. And it's quite interesting that when the North Node moved into the Gate 15 by the end of March 2020, that extreme measures around the world were enforced. The extreme measures were something that nobody had ever seen before, lockdowns, and people suddenly were in a position where we had never gone before, where we were actually being told that the stores would be shut. We wouldn't be able to do the regular things that we were always doing before. These extremes, some will say worked or didn't work. I think that everybody has their own personal idea of how it all played out. But ultimately, the extremes were enforced, and it's interesting how the path we were walking on, which is the North Node, was something that showed up right when everything became locked down. So extremes in the patterns of life are necessary sometimes. They're part of the collective. And when we have enough collective patterns within the world, we can have every type of energy. And to understand that if you carry the energy of the Gate 15, you are part of the flow of life. And sometimes that is exactly what we need for somebody to color outside of the lines, for somebody to do something that not everybody is willing to do. And because of that, it's all important to the continuity in life. And when we are expressing ourselves and being in the flow of who we are exactly, that's when we can bring love into the world and increase the aura of the collective. And once again, the mandala of life turns and we move into the stillness, the ability to sit in one place, to understand and comprehend all the details, all the small details that we have collected, to sort through what was important and what isn't, to see where we are meant to concentrate and where our focus is meant to be. It is only in the stillness that we can find clarity and purpose, and that is the energy of the mountain or keeping still, the Gate 52. Well, that's all for now, and I'll be back next week with episode 28, the Gate 52, the Gate of Keeping Still. Until then, take care, and I'll see you again soon.